Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India, India's voice to the world. This is News Hour. My name is Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour, Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address the Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2024 in New Delhi. This event is showcasing India's capabilities across the entire mobility and automotive value chains. The United States hints at hitting Iranian-backed Houthis with increased intensity after the Jordan attack. North Korea fires multiple cruise missiles off its west coast. South Korea notes that it is the fourth such incident in just over a week. And a quick-fire century by Yashasvi Jaiswal puts India in a commanding position on day one of the second test against England at Visakhapatnam. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address a program at India's largest and first of its kind mobility exhibition. This is called Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2024. It's going to happen at 4:30 in the evening today, Indian Standard Time, at the Bharat Mandapam in the national capital in New Delhi. So Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2024 is going to showcase India's capabilities across the entire mobility and automotive value chains. So as we said, that India is hosting this first ever Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2024, and it's happening between the 1st of February, it started yesterday, and the 3rd of February. And Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2024 is going to feature exhibitions, conferences, buyer-seller meets, state sessions, road safety pavilion, and also public-centric attractions like go-karting. And with over 800 exhibitors from 50-plus countries, the Expo will highlight cutting-edge technologies, sustainable solutions, and breakthroughs in mobility. The Expo will feature participation from over 28 vehicle manufacturers, in addition to the presence of more than 600 auto component manufacturers. Over 1,000 brands from over 13 global markets will showcase their complete range of products, technologies, and services at the event. With a focus on new age components, tech future fuels, and a growing EV ecosystem, the Expo also features dedicated exhibitions on automation, urban mobility solutions, EV charging solutions, and more. And we're going to be joined by our correspondent Dibyendu Mondal in a short while from now. We're just patching up with him, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about this exhibition, the Global Expo, Mobility Expo. And it is, in fact, timely, because at a time when we have a clear understanding of the importance of mobility. Dibyendu is with us. Dibyendu, you know, what are we talking about when we refer to cutting-edge technologies and sustainable solutions?
Well, Mark, you know, this exhibition perhaps will be focusing on the electronic vehicle segment. Remember, in yesterday's budget also, the government, in fact, perhaps showed a roadmap towards how the policies would be brought out for the green mobility sector. So this exhibition, which will see participation from across 15-plus countries, as well as 29 states from across the country, will showcase cutting-edge technologies which would perhaps in fact, move towards a greener and sustainable energy sector. There will also be participation from the countries where, you know, such cutting-edge technologies have already been proven, and these technologies could be adopted here in India. So these are some of the important aspects that we are looking forward to the exhibition that will be opened by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a short while from now.
Also, Dibyendu, is this also going to be about more organized mobility, you know, road safety, better driving habits, things like that, which is a huge part of mobility.
Absolutely, Mark. There would be separate pavilions in the exhibition center at Bharat Mandapam, where better road safety equipments, better road safety technologies will be demonstrated for India to be adopted in the coming times. Remember, pedestrian safety is also something that the government is looking at closely, and such technologies will also be part of the exhibition here at Bharat Mandapam, where the exhibition will be opened in a short while from now.
And what are the future technologies that could be discussed? There was in the past references that there could be possibility of people in flying taxis with drones and things like that. Is that even now being considered?
Oh, well, these are futuristic technologies, and we are hoping that some countries from Europe, as well as from the America, as well as Canada, will be demonstrating some of their proven technologies, which are still in the stage of development. Could be part of the exhibition here, where we could see some drone mobility, as well as some different mode. In fact, Hyperloop is also one of the modes of transport that is being talked about, and it could also be featured in this exhibition.
Also, with regard to less pressure on the driver itself, there are, of course, already we are moving into an era where we could have the car doing a lot of self-driving, not entirely driverless. But, to what extent are these technologies already part of, let's say, the more advanced systems in play?
Well, there are already cars in the market, especially in Europe, where advanced technologies, for example, if not driverless, but a lot of the work is being done by artificial intelligence within the cars. So these are some of the technologies that could perhaps, and we are also seeing many such cars here in India as well, which are being upgraded to some extent, where a lot of these works of acceleration, as well as the other technologies involved in the car, is taking place through these advanced technologies such as artificial intelligence. So of course, these are some of the technologies that we will be looking forward to, where the Indian car manufacturers could also be adopting more of such technologies to, in fact, make our travel faster, easier, smoother, as well as safer.
Right, and one aspect of mobility is also that we shouldn't be running before we are walking. So the point is that we are making a transition to e-vehicles. How much progress, if we assess that, is being done, it has been made thus far?
Oh, well, we are swiftly moving towards that part of the green energy transition. And, mostly in the tier 1 cities across India, you could see some sort of green vehicle, in fact, the e-vehicle being driven. The governments are also pushing towards, electronic buses to make the transport more cleaner, and in fact, public transport more cleaner and greener. We have seen several of them in Delhi. There are other states that are adopting the technology. So, the government's push towards, making technologies, in fact, transport more greener, is something that is not only being adopted in Delhi, but elsewhere also in other states by the other state governments. So green technology is certainly a push that the government is giving. The government also in the budget yesterday spoke about setting up an ecosystem of green mobility and green energy, where, there are deficit of charging stations, which will be taken up in a phased manner and developed over the course of the time. So these are of course some of the key aspects on green mobility that we are looking forward to.
Yes, thanks very much, Dibyendu Mandal, who's covering this event for us. The Prime Minister will be speaking there at around 4:30 this afternoon. Moving on to our next story, the United States on Thursday approved the sale of 31 MQ-9B armed drones to India at an estimated cost of US dollars 3.99 billion. So the proposed mega drone deal, it was announced during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Washington in June last year. So under this deal, India will be getting 31 high-altitude, long-endurance unmanned aerial vehicles, of which the Navy will get 15 Sea Guardian drones. The Army and the Indian Air Force will get 8 each of the land version, the Sky Guardian, that is. So the U.S. Defense Security Cooperation Agency in a statement had said that the proposed sale will support the foreign policy and national security objectives of the United States. It will help to strengthen the U.S.-India strategic partnership and to improve the security of a major defense partner. India continues to be an important force for political stability, peace and economic progress in the Indo-Pacific and South Asia regions, is what the U.S. has said. Now, the U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said that the drone deal offers significant potential to further advance strategic technology cooperation with India and military cooperation in the region.
So I'll say that generally the U.S.-India defense partnership has seen significant growth over the past decade. This is a proposed sale that was announced during Prime Minister Modi's visit last year. We believe it offers significant potential to further advance strategic technology cooperation with India and military cooperation in the region. Of course, Congress plays, as you know, an important role in the U.S. arms transfer process. We routinely consult with members of Congress on the Foreign Affairs Committees before our formal notification so we can address questions that they might have. But I don't have any comment on when that formal notification might take place.
A high-level Maldivian delegation is in Delhi ahead of a core group meeting that's going to take place today. The delegation, comprising both the diplomatic and military representatives, is expected to take part in the second core group meeting. And the first meeting of this high-level core group was held in Male on January 14th. During the meeting, both sides held discussions on a wide range of issues which related to bilateral cooperation towards identifying steps to enhance the partnership, including expediting the implementation of ongoing development projects in Maldives. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. The U.S. President Biden will join families of 3 Army reserves who were killed in Jordan. It's called a dignified transfer of remains, and it will take place at the Dover Air Base. International Court of Justice to rule on the issue of jurisdiction in Russia-Ukraine war. And farmers on protest block trucks from crossing Belgian-Dutch border.
ग्रामीण अर्थव्यवस्था के संरक्षक एग्रीकल्चर इंश्योरेंस कंपनी ऑफ इंडिया
Why is the world preparing for a second Trump presidency? I connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
ग्रामीण अर्थव्यवस्था के संरक्षक एग्रीकल्चर इंश्योरेंस कंपनी ऑफ इंडिया ग्रामीण अर्थव्यवस्था के संरक्षक एग्रीकल्चर इंश्योरेंस कंपनी ऑफ इंडिया
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world, one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. The US has approved plans for a series of strikes on Iranian targets in Syria and Iraq. It comes after a drone attack killed 3 US soldiers in Jordan, close to the Syrian border, on Sunday. The US blamed an Iranian-backed terrorist group for the attack. The group, the Islamic Resistance in Iraq, is believed to contain multiple militia that have been armed, funded, and trained by Iran's Revolutionary Guard force. Iran, meanwhile, has denied any role in the attack, which injured 41 other US troops at the military base known as Star 22. Meanwhile, the U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said on Thursday that this was a dangerous moment in West Asia and that the United States would work to avoid a wider conflict.
So this is a dangerous moment in the Middle East. We will continue to work to avoid a wider conflict in the region. But we will take all necessary actions to defend the United States, our interests, and our people. And we will respond when we choose, where we choose, and how we choose.
With President Joe Biden bearing witness, the remains of 3 American troops killed in a drone attack in Jordan will arrive in the United States on Friday. Biden and the First Lady Jill Biden will meet the family members of the fallen soldiers at the Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. Earlier, the U.S. president said that he made up his mind on how to respond to the attack that Washington blamed on Iran-backed militia. Let's get you some updates on the Israel-Hamas conflict. Now, Israel will shift the focus of its operations to Gaza's Rafah city. This is after claiming to have dismantled Hamas units in Khan Yunis. Rafah is located near the Egypt border. The development comes as Qatari and Egyptian mediators hope for a positive response from Hamas to a fresh proposal for an extended halt in fighting agreed with Israel and the U.S. at talks in Paris last week. The proposal also calls for release of hostages. Meanwhile, Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, has said that the country's troops have killed 10,000 terrorists in Gaza since the start of the conflict with Hamas.
To continue, not to stop it, requires national resilience and determination, and we must preserve until we complete our missions. And it is more difficult for Hamas. Believe me, they don't have weapons, they don't have ammunition. They have 10,000 eliminated terrorists and another 10,000 terrorists who are wounded and not functioning. This is a serious blow that erodes their abilities. To continue, not to stop it, requires national resilience and determination, and we must preserve until we complete our missions.
The Israeli Defense Forces continue to fight terror groups, the terror group Hamas in Gaza. The IDF has released a video of its operations in Khan Yunis. In response to the barrage of rockets fired at the central Israel on Thursday, Israeli Air Force fighters, they struck the launchers used to fire the rockets. They had also destroyed 70 tunnel shafts harboring Hamas. Multiple Hamas terrorists have been eliminated by the Israeli Air Force and these aircraft strikes, and also during ground operations. The forces, they located large quantities of weapons as well. The Syrian military has said that it downed a number of Israeli missiles launched from the Golan Heights that were targeted towards south Damascus on Friday. Reports of an explosion in the vicinity of Damascus circulated earlier tonight, overnight in fact, and there was no immediate comment from the Israeli military. Israel has for years carried out attacks on what it has described as Iran-linked targets in Syria, where Tehran's influence has grown since it began supporting President Bashar al-Assad in a civil war that started in 2011. Since the October 7 attack on Israel by Palestinian terror group Hamas from Gaza, Israel has escalated its strikes on Iranian-backed militia targets in Syria and has also struck Syrian army defense forces and some Syrian forces. The U.S. has said that it had very frank conversations with Israeli officials about settler violence in the West Bank. Now, this comes after the Biden administration imposed sanctions on 4 Israeli men it accused of being involved in settler violence.
I will say we have had some very frank conversations with them about extremist settler violence. And that includes some very detailed conversations where we have presented cases to the Israeli government, cases of settler violence where we have seen reports and where we have seen documented settler violence and asked them to take action. And we have seen them take some action.
Saudi Arabia is willing to accept political commitment for the creation of a Palestinian state by Israel in a bid to get a defense pact with the U.S. approved before the U.S. presidential election. Saudi Arabia is willing to accept the political commitment from Israel. A normalization deal would bolster Israel's defenses against arch-rival Iran and also apparently give the U.S. President Biden a diplomatic victory to want ahead of the November 5th presidential election. Let's shift focus now to Europe, and the leaders of the European Union on Thursday, they unanimously voted in favor of extending 50 billion euros in financial assistance to Ukraine. This decision after it was welcomed, in fact, by the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, but the crucial funding was stalled last year when the Hungarian Prime Minister Orban had blocked its passage at an EU summit in December. So Zelensky says that the EU support will help strengthen the long-term economic and financial stability of Ukraine. Megumi Lim reports from Kiev.
President Zelensky on Thursday thanked European Council President Charles Michel and EU leaders for establishing the 50 billion euro aid package, which will be provided to Kiev over the next 4 years. The aid deal, called the Ukraine Facility, was approved during a European Council summit on Thursday.
Today is indeed a very special day. The European Council reconfirmed Europe's unwavering commitment to stand with Ukraine. We all know that Ukraine is fighting for us. So we will support them with the necessary funding and provide them with the much-needed predictability they deserve. So with this agreement, Europe stands united and is well-equipped for the challenges ahead. In other words, today, Europe got stronger.
After weeks of concerns that Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban may block its passage again, as he had done in a previous EU summit in December of last year. Now, before Thursday's summit began, EU leaders pressured Orban to lift his block. Now, Orban has for months been calling for the need to review the distribution of funds on an annual basis, which triggered concerns that this could open up the opportunity for the funding to be vetoed by him at a later stage. He had also tried to get the EU to unblock money allocated for Hungary, which has been frozen due to concerns about the country's deteriorating rule of law. Now, EU leaders agreed that the aid package will be discussed yearly and that it will potentially undergo a review in 2 years only if necessary. The news came after officials in Ukraine warned that Kiev may face an economic crisis if support from the West continued to stall. Although Zelensky said he was grateful for the long-term financial assistance to Kiev, he also urged EU leaders to send more military aid.
I'm grateful for your decision on the financial instrument for us, for our people, for Ukraine. Ukraine facility with 50 billion euros for a 4-year period. This is a clear signal that Ukraine will withstand and that Europe will withstand. It is also really important that this decision was taken unanimously by all of you, all 27 member states, and it is yet another clear sign of your strong unity and support.
Officials in Ukraine have said that Kyiv is facing a critical shortage of artillery shells, while Moscow's forces continue to fire thousands of shells along the front lines every day. Megumi Lim in Kyiv reporting for DD India.
The United Nations' highest court, the International Court of Justice, will decide if Ukraine's case against Russia, accusing Russia of violating international law by claiming its invasion was a response to an alleged genocide on Friday. Now, over 24 European states have backed Kiev by giving formal statements to the court. They believe the case should go forward. And the court also issued emergency measures in March 2022, ordering Russia to immediately halt its military operations in Ukraine. While the court's rulings are final and legally binding, it has no way to enforce them, and Russia has ignored the orders. So Moscow said that Ukraine is using this case as a roundabout way to get a ruling on the overall legality of Russia's military action. A Russian strike killed 2 French volunteers and workers. These are aid workers there in the southern Ukrainian region of Kherson on Thursday. Kherson Governor Alexander Prokudin said that the Russian attack on the town of Beryaslav killed 2 French nationals and wounded 3 other foreigners. Prosecutors in the region said that Russian forces launched a mass drone attack in the area. The Ukrainian national was also wounded in the strike. Ukrainian troops have since established positions on the eastern bank, but Russian forces continue heavy shelling of other parts of Kherson region from areas they hold on the eastern side. Our next story, the International Atomic Energy Agency says that workers from Ukraine's atomic energy operator Energoatom, they have been barred from the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. The plant is now manned by staff who have taken Russian nationality. The IAEA head, Rafael Grossi, is to visit the site. This he's going to do next week after holding a high-level meeting in Kiev. And he will raise the crucial issue of staffing at the plant during this visit. As per reports, Russia has been imposing citizenship on plant's employees and forcing them to sign contracts with Russian-installed operator Rosatom. What's happened is that the plant was taken over by the Russian forces in March of 2022, and its 6 reactors actually have been shut down. Boosting trade and regional security in the Indo-Pacific region will be at the top of the agenda when the European and Asian leaders meet on Friday. The EU's top diplomat will host foreign ministers of ASEAN grouping, as well as from the Pacific Islands, in 2 separate meetings. Ishan Garg tells us more from Brussels.
Hosting such a large delegation from Asia is a rare occurrence in Brussels. European Union officials say hosting the ASEAN and the Pacific Island nations at the same time shows the bloc's commitment towards the Indo-Pacific region. Leaders from the east coast of Africa to the Pacific Islands are expected to attend the EU Indo-Pacific ministerial meeting, while the EU-ASEAN summit will include the foreign ministers of Brunei, Myanmar, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand and Vietnam. EU officials say they believe the Asian century has begun, and engaging with players in the Indo-Pacific region has become crucial for trade and defense purposes. The EU and ASEAN have been trying to get a free trade agreement over the line for the past decade. Analysts say both blocs are looking to reduce their dependence on the Chinese economy and could now be closer to a deal finally. Officials say the bulk of the conversation between EU officials and leaders from ASEAN and the Indo-Pacific is going to focus on growing trade and investment in the region. The leaders will also assess common security issues. Those could include China's alleged aggression in the South China Sea and political tensions in Taiwan. EU officials told us that the bloc is hoping to pitch itself as a reliable defense partner with no hidden agendas. The meetings are also likely to focus extensively on climate change and transitioning to green energy. Pacific Islands and some of the ASEAN nations are among the countries likely to be most impacted by climate change, and Europe says it has the experience and technical expertise which can help these countries prepare better. Ishan Garg in Brussels, reporting for DD India.
Well, thousands of farmers have taken to the streets of Brussels to protest against the rising living costs. Well, the protest brought the city to a standstill. The protesters clashed with the police as well. Alex Cadier reports.
Well, farmers have been here in the streets of Brussels, blocking traffic, blocking most of the main avenues, and they've been here all day outside of the European Parliament. You see they've lit 2 bonfires. Those have been burning all day. These farmers here to express their anger, their frustration with what they say are rising production costs and falling prices for their products. They say that their way of life, their businesses will not be sustainable in the months to come. They will need more support from the government. That is the message from here today. And we heard Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission President, saying that we hear farmers and we support European farmers, says the European President Commission. She, alongside the Dutch Prime Minister, the Belgian Prime Minister, met with these farming groups, hearing their concerns, hearing their frustrations. But we saw those frustrations boiling over.
As you have seen, there is a major farmers' protest in Brussels. We need to be able to discuss in the Council on this topic, because the concerns that they have are partly legitimate. The climate transition is a key priority for our societies. We need to make sure that our farmers can be a partner in this.
Earlier today, just behind me, we saw some of these farmers clashing with police, throwing bricks at police officers, throwing eggs at the European Parliament building as well, making that anger heard. It's certainly an issue that will be rumbling on in the next few weeks. Of course, European elections expected in June, and we can expect this to be quite a core, quite an important issue as well. So certainly that frustration, that anger expressed by European farmers here in Brussels today and heard by those EU leaders gathered in the city. Alex Cadier in Brussels reporting for DD India.
Northern Ireland is set to elect a government on Saturday for the first time in 2 years after the British Parliament agreed to revamp post-Brexit trade rules to break a political stalemate. In a historic first, Irish nationalist Sinn Féin are set to take the first minister role after securing the most seats in the British region's 2020 election. Northern Ireland has been without a devolved government since the pro-British Democratic Unionist Party walked out in protest over the post-Brexit trade rules, which it said created barriers with the rest of the United Kingdom and undermined Northern Ireland's place in it. The deal represents a political win for the British Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, who managed a breakthrough that eluded his predecessor, Boris Johnson, and helps to draw a line under years of wrangling over Northern Ireland's post-Brexit trading arrangements. Let's take a look now at other stories from around the world. Several people, including the pilot, were killed and 4 homes were damaged after a small plane crashed into a trailer parked due to an engine failure in Clearwater. This is in Florida in the United States on Thursday. Firefighters had rushed to the scene of the crash which caused a huge blaze in the mobile home park. Turkey's authorities on Friday arrested 25 suspects in connection with the shooting of a man at a church in Istanbul on 28th January. 2 of the suspects previously captured by the police are believed to be tied to Islamic State. The 25 suspects were charged with membership of an illegal organization and aggravated intentional homicide. Indonesia's Jakarta provincial government has announced a collaboration with the Australian Embassy through the Indonesia-Australia Partnership for Infrastructure to build a sustainable transport system for the capital city, Jakarta. Peru's train services to its historic archaeological site, Machu Picchu, reopened on Thursday following the end of the protests over the newly introduced centralized ticketing system. The protesters had struck an agreement to end the protest that ran on for more than a week. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Pakistan's caretaker government makes plans to privatize the loss-making Pakistan International Airlines just before the elections. Climbers to shell out more to climb Mount Fuji in Japan. And we'll get you weather updates from across the globe.
Are you popping pills like candy for every sniffle and cough? Is excessive use of antibiotics creating superbugs? And does this mean that antibiotics will no longer be effective? I connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
ग्रामीण अर्थव्यवस्था के संरक्षक एग्रीकल्चर इंश्योरेंस कंपनी ऑफ इंडिया ग्रामीण अर्थव्यवस्था के संरक्षक एग्रीकल्चर इंश्योरेंस कंपनी ऑफ इंडिया
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Farmers' protests have spread across the whole of Europe. Traffic snarls causing flour wilt, as well as empty supermarkets. Demonstrations reflect common issues across the continent. Let's take a look.
Farmers from Central and Eastern Europe protest in Brussels to press EU leaders for fair pay. Demonstrations reflect common issues across the continent. Irish farmers gathered tractors and rallied in support for their EU counterparts.
The number of tractors taking part is large, just like our problems. We came here to demonstrate and demand tax-free agricultural fuel, just like in other European countries, as it is unproductive for us to work paying regular fuel prices. Second, fertilizer is high. There has not been a serious agricultural policy for decades. We are crumbling.
Greek farmers in Thessaloniki demand better conditions driving tractors into the city during an agricultural trade fair. Despite the government's promises of increased aid, many farmers are still waiting for funds to recover from the recent natural disasters. Farmers from Italy and Spain joined the protest, with one Spanish farmer saying they wanted to stop the crazy laws of the European Commission.
We want mirror clauses, that's extremely necessary. On the second hand, we want to stop this crazy law that come every single day from the European Commission. It's a kind of tsunami. And the third one is we demand respect from the Spanish and the farming European community.
Portuguese farmers staged protest by driving tractors towards the Spanish border. Smaller farm associations demand action, feeling misrepresented despite cap and government agreement. The government announces a €500 million aid package to avoid mass disruptions.
If we keep on like this, the end of agriculture will mean the end of civilization. If we don't make anything anymore.
Meanwhile, the growing unrest has also been seen recently in Poland and Germany. Farmers across the whole of Europe are fighting for less bureaucracy amid the continent's rising cost of living. The food providers are struggling to protect their livelihood.
Focus to the Asia-Pacific now. North Korea fired multiple cruise missiles off its west coast on Friday, marking the fourth time in just over a week that Pyongyang launched such missiles off both coasts. The South Korean military said that the launch took place around 2 p.m. GMT, or 2 a.m. GMT, in fact, with its and this did not provide any further details. North Korea has said that since last week, it had tested strategic cruise missiles, implying that they had designed to carry out nuclear warheads. So South Korea's military has said that the North has appeared to be testing these missiles to upgrade its capabilities. Now, the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un inspected a shipyard on Friday, underscoring the importance of a strong naval presence in its war preparations. So Kim's visit to this shipyard is being made public after North Korea tested a new submarine-launched cruise missile. Still photos, which were released by KCNA, showed that Kim was looking around the shipyard with his officials. The KCNA, the agency, they have cited Kim saying strengthening naval force is the most important issue and is pushing ahead with war preparations. Kim was briefed on various warship constructions for a huge plan decided by North Korean leadership. The former Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak's 12-year jail sentence for corruption has been halved by the country's Pardons Board. Najib, who is serving a 12-year jail term, will be released in August of 2028, and fines imposed on him have been reduced to $10.59 million. Najib was jailed for graft linked to state fund One Malaysia Development Bharat, from which the US and Malaysian investigators estimate $4.5 billion was stolen, and more than $1 billion was channeled to accounts linked to the former premier. Higher living costs and political uncertainty have muted Pakistan's election campaigns. Moving on those lines, ahead of the elections in the country, Pakistan has finalized a deal to sell its national airline. Pakistan's caretaker administration is making binding plans for a new government to sell the loss-making Pakistan International Airlines. The government decided to privatize PIA just weeks after signing the IMF agreement. The caretaker administration, which took office in August to oversee the election in February, which is going to be on the 8th of this month, was empowered by the outgoing parliament to take any steps needed to meet the budgetary targets which were agreed with the IMF. The Sri Lankan government said that it's going to borrow $150 million from the International Development Association of the World Bank Group, as per the nation's finance ministry. The funding will strengthen Sri Lanka's financial sector safety net. The World Bank earlier in November last year had approved $150 million to strengthen financial sector in the country. Sri Lanka was approved as the loan. Sri Lanka approved the support loan to strengthen resilience of the financial sector. Let's get you some business updates. The Unified Payment Interface, or the UPI transactions, they've clocked a new high value in January. They've touched 18.41 trillion Indian rupees, up marginally by 1% from 18.23 trillion rupees in December. The transactions increased by 1.5% to 12.20 billion compared to 12.02 billion in October. In November, the value was seen at 17.4 trillion rupees with 11.4 billion transactions. Now, according to data shared by the National Payments Corporation of India, January numbers were 52% higher in volume and 42% higher in value compared to the same month of the last financial year. India's digital economy gaining strength. LinkedIn's co-founder Alan Blue has expressed his interest in continuing investing in India. While speaking at the World Economic Forum 2024 in Davos, he further said that the Indian professionals are a tremendously important component of business, and that India is one of the major development hubs. Let's take a look at what he said.
So LinkedIn is very interested in continuing investment in India. We are, as you know, a global professional network. Indian entrepreneurs, Indian professionals are a tremendously important component of the global network. Not only a great source of talent for companies around the world, but also a great attractor of talent. So for us, as we serve our members, as we serve our customers who are hiring through LinkedIn, India is really job one for us.
Elon Musk has suffered one of the biggest legal losses in U.S. history this week when the Tesla CEO was stripped of his $56 billion pay package in a case brought by an unlikely opponent, a former heavy metal drummer. Richard Tornetta sued Musk in 2018 when the Pennsylvania resident held just 9 shares of Tesla, and the case eventually made its way to trial in late 2022. And on Tuesday, a judge sided with Tornetta, avoiding the enormous pay deal for being unfair to him and all other shareholders of Tesla. It's day 3 of the budget session of the Indian Parliament, and both the Houses of Parliament were discussing the motion of thanks to the President's address. This was delivered at a joint sitting of both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. That's the President's address we're talking about. The President Draupadi Murmu had addressed the joint sitting of both the houses on Wednesday. The Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha are also scheduled to take up private members' legislative business later in the day. And speaking on the motion of thanks to the President's address in the Lok Sabha, the BJP MP Hina Gavit said that the government has taken many revolutionary steps to empower women, and she also lauded the Women's Reservation Act.
आज जमीन से लेके आसमान तक हर क्षेत्र में महिलाएं अपना झंडा लहरा रही है। यदि हम पॉलिटिकल बात करें तो नारी शक्ति वंदन अधिनियम लाकर 33% महिलाओं को आरक्षण दिया गया और आने वाले समय में महिलाओं का योगदान विमेन लेड डेवलपमेंट इस प्रिंसिपल के आधार पर यहाँ पे प्रधानमंत्री जी ने ये बिल लाया हुआ था और जिसके कारण आने वाले समय में इस सदन में हमें 33% महिला सांसद इस सदन में हमें दिखेगी। यह सभी कदम जो महिलाओं को सशक्त बनाने के लिए हमारी सरकार ने उठाए हैं, ये कांग्रेस ने क्यों नहीं किया? कांग्रेस पार्टी की अध्यक्षा महिला थी, हमेशा वो महिलाओं की बात करते हैं, लेकिन उन्होंने कभी महिलाओं के लिए इस तरह नहीं सोचा।
Draupadi Murmu will inaugurate the 37th Surajkund International Crafts Fair in the North Indian city of Faridabad on Friday. The world's biggest crafts fair will showcase the richness and diversity of handicrafts, handlooms, and the cultural heritage of India. Around 50 countries are participating in the fair. These include Ethiopia, Ghana, Kenya, Namibia, Nigeria, Uganda, Zimbabwe, Mauritius, Myanmar, Nepal, Russia, Sri Lanka, among others. Tanzania is participating as a partner nation in the crafts fair, while India's western state of Gujarat is the theme state. It's showcasing its unique culture and rich heritage through various art forms and handicrafts from the region. A day after the Jharkhand Transport Minister Champai Soren's appointment was finalized by the governor following Hemant Soren's resignation and arrest, the senior JMM leader took oath as the chief minister of the state on Friday. Champai Soren has been given 10 days to prove his majority. His government was finalized by the governor C.P. Radhakrishnan late on Thursday night, a little over 24 hours after Hemant Soren had resigned from the post. Hemant Soren had submitted his resignation to the governor on Wednesday night, just before his arrest by the Enforcement Directorate over allegations of money laundering. This comes on a day when the Supreme Court has declined to entertain Hemant Soren's petition challenging his arrest on money laundering charges. Over 130 planes, including 77 fighter jets, are taking part in the mega Air Force exercise Vayu Shakti 2024. On the 17th of February, the Indian Air Force would be showcasing its capability to carry out accurate bombing of targets in the exercise. The Vayu Shakti 2024 would be a major firepower demonstration over Jaisalmer, where all the major fighter aircraft, including the Rafale, Su-30 MKI, LCA Tejas, Mirage 2000 and MiG-29s, would be showcasing their firepower by shooting different missiles and bombs at designated targets.
We plan to conduct this exercise Vayu Shakti 2024 to showcase the full spectrum of operations that Indian
aerospace power can take on, and it is going to be conducted in a near realistic scenario. What we are ensuring is that it is not only that we are giving practice and showcasing our equipment or the capability of the crew which is operating the equipment, but also we are showcasing how we can take on a task in a coordinated manner.
Still to come here on DD Indian News Hour, India batting first in the second test against England at Visakhapatnam. We'll get you the latest.
Are you popping pills like candy for every sniffle and cough? Is excessive use of antibiotics creating superbugs? And does this mean that antibiotics will no longer be effective? I connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
ग्रामीण अर्थव्यवस्था के संरक्षक एग्रीकल्चर इंश्योरेंस कंपनी ऑफ इंडिया ग्रामीण अर्थव्यवस्था के संरक्षक एग्रीकल्चर इंश्योरेंस कंपनी ऑफ इंडिया ग्रामीण अर्थव्यवस्था के संरक्षक एग्रीकल्चर इंश्योरेंस कंपनी ऑफ इंडिया
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
ग्रामीण अर्थव्यवस्था के संरक्षक एग्रीकल्चर इंश्योरेंस कंपनी ऑफ इंडिया
Are you
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn, and now for all the sporting action, here's Abhishek Mahajan. Over to you, Abhishek.
Thank you, Mark. A lot happening in sports, but we'll start with the cricket update. India versus England, second test at Vizag. India batter Yashasvi Jaiswal scored a century as the hosts reached 225 runs for the loss of 3 wickets on the first day of the second cricket test match against England at Visakhapatnam. Earlier, India won the toss and opted to bat on a pitch that isn't offering a great deal of turn, but England has made them work hard for runs with good tight bowling. India has made 3 changes in their playing 11. Injured KL Rahul and Ravindra Jadeja have been replaced by Rajat Patidar and Kuldeep Yadav, respectively. Patidar made his test debut. Mukesh Kumar comes in place of Mohammad Siraj. On the other hand, England has made a couple of changes. Off-spinner Shoaib Bashir has made his debut in place of injured Jack Leach, and James Anderson has replaced Mark Wood. England lead the series 1-0, and India seek to bounce back after they lost the first test by 28 runs, and as per the latest reports, India were 244 for the loss of 3 wickets. Yashasvi Jaiswal is batting on 139 and Rajat Patidar on 29. All right, let's go across to DD India's correspondent Narayan, who is joining us from the newsroom. Narayan, how do you see India's position currently? India won the toss and opted to bat on a pitch that isn't offering a great deal of turn to start with, unlike Hyderabad, where the ball spun quite early.
Abhishek, if you take a look at this match, in the first session, India made for more than 100 runs and lost 2 wickets. And if we talk about in the test match, if a team scoring more than 100 runs in a single session, and same thing happened, if we talk about in terms of 100 runs were also scored in the second session. In that terms, we can say that these 2 sessions went in favor of India, and the way they started strong and the way Yashasvi Jaiswal in the first test match he scored 84 runs where he failed to convert 84 runs into 100, and in this match he took the opportunity and capitalized on the opportunity and converted his 50 into 100, and right now he's approaching the 150 run, and we are hoping that he will score big and he will not stop here, considering the fact that in the first match also India was looking dominant. Out of the 12 sessions played in the first test match, India dominated 8 sessions, and while England dominated 4 sessions. Despite of that, England won that match, and therefore there is no room for the complacency for the Indian team here. They should continue, and the way Yashasvi Jaiswal today treated the England bowlers, he was just an improved version of the previous match. He just converted the loose deliveries into the boundaries and also minimized the risk. So that should be the key, that should be the strategy for the Indian batting lineup here. And if you take a look at Indian batting lineup, it is on the transition phase. If you take a look at India's top 6 batters, then 3 of them are very new and inexperienced. And overall, if you take a look at the Indian batting department in the last decade, it is the most inexperienced side. This is a phase of transition. So we are hoping that we can say the way the BCCI encouraging the young guns, Gen X player, definitely they will bear fruits, and here we will dominate this test match at the Vizag.
Right, Narayan, also, I mean, if we talk about Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill, I mean, Shubman Gill's form, you think it's a matter of concern? Because if I'm not wrong, in the last 16-17 innings, across all formats, he has scored just 150.
True, if you talk about this in the test format in the red ball cricket, definitely it's a matter of concern. And today, if we take a look, the way Rohit Sharma scored 14 runs in the 41 balls, he also didn't look in his usual template, the way he comes and easily takes risks and scores big shots. So he was also looking ultra defensive and ultra cautious in his approach. And that's why I think that the way we should play your natural game, despite of the fact that it's a test cricket, it doesn't matter that how number of balls you are taking, and the way the pitch is also not favoring too much to the spinners. In that way, he could have scored more runs and he could have done better. If you talk about we talk about Shubman Gill. Also, I think if we talk about this sort of the Gen X player of the Indian cricket team, they are used to play the T20 type of cricket, the aggressive type of cricket, and in that sense, he can take few learning lessons from the coach Rahul Dravid, who I think he's the best man in the world to give those tips to Shubman.
All right, Narayan, India are currently 248 for 3. Jaiswal is batting on 140 and Rajat Patidar on 32. We'll leave that at Narayan, but we'll keep taking updates from you. Moving on to our next story. Now India is facing a struggling Nepal in its final Group 1 Super 6 match of the ICC Under-19 World Cup on Friday in South Africa. India won the toss and elected to bat. Defending champions have played brilliant cricket so far in the marquee tournament. They have won all their group matches along with Pakistan and topped the points table with healthy net run rate. If they win today against Nepal, they will take a step closer to book a place in the semi-finals. On the other hand, Nepal has played 3 and lost 3 matches, all the matches that they have played, and India secured a thumping 214-run win over the Kiwis in its first Super 6 match. All right, that's all we have in sports stories. Back to you, Mark.
Thanks a lot, Abhishek. And that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, and now also you can contact us on Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark, and with me is Abhishek. Thanks very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.